Okay, so I'm going to talk about some ideas from this, this new book. And the book was motivated in part by what I think is a pretty uncomfortable fact. And it's this fact that Fred Wilson in New York talks about. He's a VC at Union Square Ventures, and he says the more money that goes into your early stage business, the worse the odds of success. Let me show you now some evidence that may surprise you. This is evidence not talked about very much in the venture capital industry. Josh Lerner at Harvard Business School got his hands on the data for the returns from each fund from the beginning of time in the industry in the US through 2011, every fund. And he plotted them on a graph in order from best return to worst, okay? And then just drew a line through the dots. So you can see over here, the very best funds did pretty well, right? That's 700% on your money each year for 10 years. We'd like to be in that fund, right? That was a great fund. But were there a lot of funds that were good? No, very few really good ones, right? And the vast majority are sort of in the middle where it flatlines around what number? Around 0, right? Now, what portion deliver negative returns? That is, never get back to 0. Something like 20, 25% there, right? Okay? And another third or so deliver low single-digit returns. So from an entrepreneur's perspective, I think there are two problems here. One problem is when I get a check from one of these guys, I'm going to get some money. What else am I going to get? I'm going to get some help and advice. Do I want the help and advice given their performance at running their fund? I'm not so sure that that's actually going to help me run my business very well. And the second problem is even in these funds that delivered the big returns, why did they do that? Well, they did it because there was a Facebook or a Google or something like that in the fund, right? And the rest of the companies in that fund, most of them were washouts. So even at this end of the curve, you're playing a difficult lottery. And the data shows that 3/4 of all venture capital-backed companies fail to return the capital that goes into them. Do you want to enter that lottery? I'm not sure that I do. Okay, so you might say, John, is there an alternative? And yes, there are 5, okay? So there are 5 ways we can get customers to fund our business instead of investors. They are matchmaker models, people like eBay, Expedia, so on, that simply bring together buyers and sellers, and because they don't own what's bought and sold, they have very low costs, right? And because IT is really cheap today, they can build a business like that if they have some skills without taking on any investment, okay? Pay in advance models, you simply ask your customer to pay you before you give them the stuff, right? That's what Michael Dell did in starting Dell. Got to pay for the computer before you get it. Subscription models, we all subscribe to stuff, right? When do we pay for the subscription? At the beginning, and then maybe over time. And when does the stuff come? The Netflix subscription or cable TV or whatever it is comes over time. Scarcity models are things like Zara. Zara doesn't try and sell as much as possible of every style in the store. In fact, they deliberately limit it so that the customer is trained, if I want to buy that dress and I see it today in the store, I better buy it today because tomorrow it's going to be gone. Okay? So they limit it, the quantity, they limit the time, and they sell at low pricing. That's what scarcity models are. Service to product models, Bill Gates and Paul Allen. What did they do to start the business? They wrote operating systems. Each won a service contract to deliver an operating system for IBM and ultimately for most of the IBM clones, right? Well, at some point they said, hey, this isn't very scalable, but you know, we've gotten really good at writing these things. Could we just put them in a shrink-wrapped box like a product and ship it? Let's wrap up. What about you? Which of these 5 models could you put to work in your business? So what should you do? Well, Mark Suster, another VC, says what you should do is ring the cash register. Go find a customer who will write you a check that clears, please. Okay? That's what you got to do. Have I said it's easy? I haven't said it's easy, right? It's hard. You have to have something that the customer really wants. And if they don't want to pay you in advance, that might be really good information for you to have now. Because if they don't want to pay you in advance, they might not want to pay you at all, right? Now, is venture capital bad for you? Have I said venture capital is bad? I haven't said that exactly. What I've said is it's the timing that I worry about. When you raise this money in advance of having revenue, that's when I think it's bad, and it concerns these guys too. But once you have a venture that's actually clicking, maybe that's a good time to raise venture capital. Final observation, who's written business plans in the room? A whole bunch of you have, right? Okay, question for you. Did you write these 3 words in your business plan? We believe that blah, 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 blah. Do you remember? You did write those words. May I translate what I think you meant when you wrote those words? I think what you meant is this. I've been so busy writing this business plan that I've had no time to go out and collect any real evidence, but I firmly, fervently hope and pray that blah, 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 blah. Okay, so you know there's a really good book on this new topic, right? Turns out Fortune magazine says this is one of the 5 books not to miss. I was really quite gratified. So in a nutshell, we know the customer's king, right? We all know that. What we maybe didn't know or kind of forgot is that the customer can be our VC as well.